Hello, I'm Steve Moros, and I'm the career counselor at Sabancı School of Management, responsible for all of the master's level students. I've designed this webinar for you in order to help you to come up with a career objective if you don't have a clear career objective at this point in your lives. Basically, this webinar is to be done at your own pace. We'll be going through a series of exercises. I'll explain the exercise, then you can hit pause, work through your exercise with pen and paper, and then you hit play again, and we move to the next exercise. When you're done with all of your exercises, you can send them to me by email. My email address was on the first slide, and I'll also give it to you again later in the presentation. And then we can set one-on-one career coaching sessions to go over these things individually, because you're all going to have different results to these exercises. And the purpose of this webinar is to provide you with a practical guide to building your career. Basically, most of us float through our careers like a leaf in the wind. Maybe we get our first job because there was a company recruiting at your university, you gave them your CV, they hired you and you accepted, you didn't think much about it. Or maybe a friend of yours works at a company or a relative of yours and told you to come and work for them. And oftentimes this continues as a pattern throughout our lives, and we reach middle age, 50 years old, etc., and we're not even sure how we got to the point we're at in our careers. So as the expression goes, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So what I would like to do is help you to plan your career today. To be successful in your career search, you basically need three things. You need to know yourselves, you need to know what you want, and lastly, you need to know how to get what you want. And hopefully you'll leave this webinar with these three things, or at least the first two, and the third one we'll talk about one-on-one. To be successful in your career search, you also need to be able to talk about these things effectively in an interview. Oftentimes when we walk into a job interview, we look like this lady does here, frightened. The person behind the desk looks intimidating. But by working through these exercises, you also become a better interviewer, so you can walk into that interview with a little bit more confidence. And again, the interview is the most important part of the job search, probably 90% of the determining factor whether or not you get a job. Hopefully you'll leave this webinar better at interviewing as well. So, there's 4 parts that we're going to be discussing. Normally the first 2 parts are done in a first session, and the second 2 parts are done in a later session. Of course, we work at your own pace. You could do them all at once if you want, or you can break these up into sessions. Just hit pause and play whenever you're ready to go. Part 1 is thinking about your current situation. Part 2 is preparing to move ahead. Part 3 is a lot of work. That's why oftentimes I say leave part 3, maybe go eat something, take a break, start the next day, whatever. It's about defining your career plan, and it's a series of exercises to help you come up with a plan for your career based on parts 1 and 2. And part 4 is completing the picture. This is something we start together, but we can finish in one-on-one sessions in my office. Basically, part 1 consists of 4 thinking exercises: the stages of change, understanding your transition coping style, or how you manage changes, assessing whether you feel in control or not, in control of your career situation, and setting short-term goals, which is something many of us don't do, but it's something you really should do if you're serious about your career. So first of all, we have the stages of change. And basically, this is a process that we all go through when we're faced with a change situation. As time goes on, the self-efficacy, or our ability to manage the situation, goes up initially, then down, then up again. And in this first exercise, I would like you to just think about your current situation. What is this change that we're talking about? Well, you're coming into a new master's program with the objective of moving into a new career. So this is a big change, is it not? It is. So at this point in this stage of change, getting educated in a new degree, moving on to a new career path, where do you feel you are? In the beginning, immobilization or shock. You basically aren't sure what to do. Then you sort of move up into denial or retreat. You're sort of taking some action, but it's not necessarily healthy action. You then start to doubt your situation, you become a little bit frustrated, a little bit stressed, and then eventually you just accept your situation and you let go. From that point on, your self-efficacy starts to improve. You begin to test things out, maybe develop yourself a little bit. You start to try to understand meanings and come up with some decisions, and then you create new goals and you start to integrate into your new situation. What I'd like to do is ask you to think a little bit and just write down where you feel you are on that chart, and then we can start again.